Hi, I'm Mark Demler, and Terry and I are excited today to share with you more about Project Moses. Today we'll talk about getting to work. Getting to work and the Project Moses work in our community to combat the evils of human trafficking. In our last visit, we shared about our story of I Didn't Know. Now, if you have followed the My Story series here, you heard from the Reverend Renee Samadavia a short time ago about a abolitionist called William Wilberforce. We're reminded today about a quote of his. You may choose to look the other way, but you can never again say you didn't know. Also in our last visit, we shared an education video titled, What is Human Trafficking? We are now pleased to share with you a brand new animate from our friends at Texas Christian University that accurately, succinctly, and artfully describes the reality of sexual exploitation and how we can help survivors heal.
Human trafficking, commercial sexual exploitation, and forced labor seem a world away. But according to the International Labor Organization, there are more slaves at this moment than at any other time in history. UNICEF tells us that of the estimated 40.3 million people subjected to modern slavery and psychological bondage, approximately 70% of those are women and girls, some as young as 6 years old, with abusers who can range from family members and acquaintances to gangs and persons unknown. How is it possible that something so insidious has become widespread? A recent report by the University of Texas at Austin states that in Texas alone, there were almost 80,000 sexually trafficked youths. What methods could possibly allow victims from all walks of life to be exploited and abused in this way, from the most vulnerable and at risk to those from privilege? The process can be one of violence, including kidnapping, or desperation where sex is traded for food, shelter, or necessities for existence. But often, it's a case of careful grooming, identifying a victim by looking for vulnerabilities. Traffickers target victims with emotional neediness, low self-esteem, and those under stress. By gathering information in an interested way, the goal is to create trust and build dependency, while isolating the abused from family and friends. Through phone calls and social media, the trafficker begins slowly, often supplying phones and other devices so that communication can be continuous and undercover. By fulfilling a need, the trafficker strives to become everything to their victim, including becoming the only person they can trust. Often the dependency building includes gifts, drugs, or alcohol, but sometimes it's simply the fulfilling of a desperate need to be seen. Once trust is established and dependency is complete, control begins. Often there's been nothing asked of the victim until this point, when suddenly the threat of violence and sexual demands leave the victim confused, fearful, and psychologically battered. Sexual exploitation and physical abuse create chronic overstimulation of the brain, as the threat of violence leads the abused to stay on high alert. The true horror is that even rescued survivors have years of recovery ahead, since recovery requires overriding trauma-related neural pathways that years of victimization create. Sadly, any association with the sex industry creates an unforgiving stigma that both shames and blames the victim. Too often, survivors are treated as criminals, as we overlook the process that has created these circumstances and the devastating consequences that can last a lifetime. This must stop. It will take deep understanding and multiple healing strategies in order to help survivors develop needed skills such as self-confidence, problem-solving, and self-regulation. Only in this way can survivors distance themselves from their traffickers, reestablish their identity, and come to believe that they have inherent value.
I am sure that many of you have witnessed or been involved with a new ministry and tried to find out how do we find our niche in the parish and make us relevant to the cause we choose to support. Well, this is how Project Moses walked that path. To support our focus area of education, Project Moses spent its first year of existence learning about the issue of human trafficking and its prevalence here in our community. We used the Sunday Forum Speaker Series in both 2017 and 2018 to host speakers here during Lent to help educate all of us about the complexities of the trafficking issue. Some of those speakers came from the FBI, the Dallas Police Department, as well as our friends from other agencies here in town. Rebecca Charleston, who you heard from in our I Didn't Know video, was one of those speakers as she shared her powerful and heart-wrenching story about being trafficked for more than 10 years. And we've hosted bus excursions to get a first-hand look here in the city at known trafficking environments. The comment heard most often from those who attended the bus excursions was, "I didn't think that's where we were going," or "That's pretty close to where I live." In October of 2018, St. Michael's hosted a full-day community symposium called Fighting for Freedom. That was dedicated to sharing state, local, and national resources used in understanding and combating human trafficking. Our keynote speaker for that event was the Reverend Becca Stevens. Becca is an Episcopal priest and founder of Thistle Farms in Nashville, Tennessee. Our past 2 years have been focused on building the ministry and our relationships with the many wonderful organizations in our area that are working on the issue of human trafficking. It's vitally important to stay engaged with both local, state, and national representatives on this issue. And we talked last week about the ask from Eric Lyles to get involved with at least one small group ministry. Now let's hear from our rector, the Reverend Dr. Chris Garata.
We need to bring the crime out of the shadows. St. Michael and All Angels has joined the fight against human trafficking. Through partnerships both here in Dallas and beyond, we will be doing work regionally and nationally to help support survivors of human trafficking, and we want you to be a part of this new ministry.
To help our ministry become a part of this fight, Project Moses became a member of the North Texas Coalition Against Human Trafficking. Terry also became a member of the executive committee of that coalition. This strategic involvement has allowed us to build credibility in the community and has given us exposure to the more than 40 agencies that work to fight on the streets with survivors of human trafficking. In this year of pandemic, these relationships have proved to be especially beneficial to our ministry, as we have been able to assist many survivors with their needs. If you are like us, you saw your lives slow down during the pandemic. It's an unfortunate fact, however, that human traffickers became more active in 2020 by preying on vulnerable people, especially young adults that have been spending more time on their computers, trying to stay connected with their friends and the community. Many of those answering ads are internet requests that they would learn to regret. During this time, Project Moses has been able to use its generous donations and grants to support survivors of the organizations that we have learned to work with in the coalition. We have partners with people like Restored Hope Ministries. This was a great project that we became involved with to renovate an apartment that is now known as the Project Moses Suite at one of their residential facilities. We also work with New Friends, New Life, and we've got a great team of people that are working to provide meals on a monthly basis to survivors at New Friends, New Life, and we also help support many of the programs for their members. At Alive at Last, we were able to have a sponsorship for a survivor as well as mentor another survivor. Many of you have participated in our drive here, especially last month in October, to collect snacks, drinks, and other clothing items that we were able to distribute to many of the agencies that are part of the coalition, and especially the Dallas Police Department. At Valiant Hearts, we've been able to support many of the needs of their clients with support from Project Moses. Mosaic Family Services is a great organization here in North Texas, and we've been able to support many of the survivor activities that they offer to their clients. The North Texas Coalition Against Human Trafficking, not only is it a great coalition of many organizations, but they support through scholarships many survivors, and Project Moses has been a big part of that in contributing to their rehabilitation. The Men's Advocacy Group is a part of New Friends, New Life, and the men of Project Moses have been heavily involved in that. We've been able to support their education and other survivor needs through contributions to the Men's Advocacy Group. Next is In My Shoes. In My Shoes has been a great organization and inspiration to us, and Project Moses has been able to donate IT equipment in their residence for unwed mothers.
In addition to serving survivors through these local agencies, Project Moses has set its sights on a longer-term aspiration of developing a long-term care facility, a safe home for the rehabilitation of sex trafficking survivors in North Texas. During our work with law enforcement in state and local agencies, it has become apparent that sustained rehabilitative services are critical to support survivors so they can have a safe, secure, and productive life after they have suffered the trauma of being trafficked. We hope these 2 My Story videos have been educational and insightful into the horrible reality of human trafficking that lives here in our community. We also hope that My Story has motivated you to become part of the solution to end human trafficking. You have heard the story of Rebecca Charleston and how she used perseverance, social services, and her faith to rebuild her life. Please join with us, the Project Moses team, in duplicating Rebecca's success story for the many other human trafficking survivors in our community. Let's get to work.